Now, the last thing I want to cover is actually something that Amazon was touting quite a bit, and that is their Silk browser. Now, what's interesting about, oh, look at that, it's stimulatedboredom.com. You should go there right now, as a matter of fact. But one of the things about the Silk browser that's very interesting is that it does a lot of the caching of images and a lot of the heavy lifting on Amazon's servers. And so therefore, basically what it does is it does not cache a lot of those images and information on the device itself, which of course saves precious memory, but it's also intended to make web pages load a lot faster. Now, as Amazon has said, it is exclusive for the Kindle Fire, so if you got it on the day that it was released and it wasn't going as fast as you wanted it to go, that's because not enough people were using it. What the Silk browser does is actually somewhat intuitive if you go to stimulatedboredom.com quite often, or if you go to New York Times quite often. What it does is it learns people's behavior. So if you were to go to, let's say, New York Times, or here I'll launch Amazon, if the majority of people who go to Amazon.com were to click on electronic devices, or if you went to ESPN.com often, the first thing that you click on is college football, it learns that because of the behavior of yourself as well as other people using the Silk browser, and theoretically it makes it load faster. Now, I found that it is slower than on my iPad, and according to Amazon, that'll get faster with time. However, you can go into the settings, and I'm not going to go into it in detail right now, but you can go into the settings and actually turn that off, where it says accelerate page loading. Whoops. You can turn that off. Now, some people have found that the web pages are loading faster with the accelerated page loading turned off. So that is a personal preference for you folks. Again, I'll load another page. I'll pull up ESPN since I mentioned it before. I think it loads pretty quickly. But again, if the majority of people who go to ESPN.com tend to click on college football or scores, let's say we hit NCAA, then the Silk browser theoretically would start loading those pages in advance so that it would load faster on the Fire itself. Lastly, one of the other things I want to cover is, of course, you do have tabbed browsing. So for instance, since it's a favorite of mine, it should be a favorite of yours, stimulatedboredom.com, if I wanted to continue to surf, I would just simply hit tab, and then I could surf to another page, which I'm not sure if I hit it. There we go. Bring up Wikipedia. So in terms of multitasking, this is actually quite handy. I go to Best Buy, which is a church that I pray at often. So then obviously I can easily switch between. I can go back to stimulated boredom, reference back to Wikipedia if I was looking at an article, go back to Best Buy. So you do have tab browsing, which is quite handy, and it's very easy to add a bookmark. You just hit bookmark here, and then you can save your favorite bookmarks in the web browser so that you can find it faster in the future. And then just simply close out. Again, if I don't want this to be displayed, I would go to History, those pages I was just looking at, clear all, go back to the home page. They're not displaying anymore. Now, one of the things that a lot of people have noticed, that if you go to a website, when you go back to your home screen, it shows up on your carousel. Now, I want to warn some folks that there are no parental controls on the Kindle Fire. So in terms of anything that you may surf, I'm not saying, I pass no judgment on what you might be surfing on, but know that it will display on the carousel. There is a way for you to get rid of that page if you don't want it to display on the carousel. What you would do is simply go to Web, go down to Settings, you would hit History, hit Clear All, and you'll notice when you go back to the carousel, oh, you know what, I have that page open, one moment. You have to actually have the page closed so it's back to your bookmarks page. Then you would go to Settings. Excuse me, History. It's already cleared, but I'll just go ahead and do that just to be safe. And as you'll notice, now it's gone. So for those of you who are concerned about websites that you visited, you don't want it displaying, just simply clear the browser history on your web browser, and it will no longer display on the carousel. One last thing relating to the web browser. Obviously, you do have pinch to zoom, so we'll go back to our favorite website, stimulatedboredom.com. And you are able to pinch and zoom in as need be, or turn on the mobile site. You could even go into the settings and determine whether or not you want the desktop view of websites, or if it is mobile optimized, you can turn that on as well. But I wanted to show people the pinch to zoom is very responsive and easy to use. If you want to also, want to zoom in, you can double tap, and it'll automatically zoom for you to make it easier for you to read different things on web pages. So either pinch to zoom, or you can double tap to bring it back to its original view, or double tap to zoom it in again. Now the next thing that I want to talk about is email. Now the Kindle Fire does ship with a native email app that does work with Gmail and other third-party email applications like Yahoo, AOL. Not sure why you'd be on AOL, but again, I don't judge. But it is a unified inbox. So again, I have my personal email and then I have my stimulated boredom email. So if I were to hit stimulated boredom, it would go into my emails there, and of course I have different settings for deleting and composing emails. Same thing with my personal email, which I'm not going to open up because, see, it says right there, personal email. But it does support IMAP and POP settings, which you are able to set up. And then if you are looking for Microsoft Exchange mail support, that is not supported on the native email app. In fact, one of the ones that was a free app of the day was Enhanced Email, which is right here. It's normally $9.99. Like I mentioned before, I snagged it when it was free, and that actually does support Exchange mail. If you need to do that for work. But beyond that, you can add as many accounts as you want, whether it's Hotmail, Gmail, Yahoo, etc., and it'll unify all of that into one inbox. And it does allow you to easily compose. So if I were to go to compose here, it brings it up, sent from my Kindle Fire. It does import your address book in if you link it to Gmail and so forth. So if I start typing, Dana, at stimulated boredom, and then of course usual email, send, save draft, etc. All right, now the next thing that I want to talk about is apps. So of course, as I showed earlier, if you go to apps, I'll have everything that's on the device as well as in the cloud that's accessible to you that you can download at any time. But then if you go into the store, it's easily organized. You have top paid apps on the left-hand side, then you have top free on the right-hand side. Then every single day, Amazon offers a free app a day. Now, one of the things here is that the Amazon App Store is the only app store, of course, that is supported. The Google market is not supported. This is actually where Amazon becomes a little bit like Apple, where they control the content that they are providing for their customers. Now, the reason for that is Amazon only wants apps in their App Store that are optimized for the Kindle Fire 7-inch screen. And Apple does the same thing, and that's not really something that I'm going to complain about. There is also a way for you to sideload apps from the Google market that's quite easy. Amazon has not closed off the Kindle Fire, preventing you from doing that, so I was able to sideload Spotify as well as Dropbox, which are two apps that are not currently supported on the App Store for Amazon, but look perfectly fine on the Kindle Fire itself. But as I mentioned previously, they offer a free app every single day. You can read through a review as well, but you can simply hit free. It's normally $1.99, but today it's free. And then, of course, if you're not going to use it, you can just simply grab it while it's free, let it be stored in the cloud. If you think you're going to use it in the future, you can download it again. And then, of course, there's a carousel here for you to refine your search: news, games, entertainment, lifestyle, news and weather, etc., social networking. So quite easy, pretty intuitive for folks who currently have an iPhone or an Android phone in terms of finding apps that they might want to use. And of course, there's ratings and other information. Let's say, for instance, if we went to Angry Birds, you can view photos within the game, read reviews from other people who've used it, recommendations if you like that game, other games that are similar, and everything like that. As I mentioned, it's pretty intuitive for those who've used an app store before. Oh, and really quickly, something that I left out, I mentioned that you can sideload apps that are not currently available in the Amazon App Store. I gave the example of Spotify and Dropbox, which are two applications that I use often. Dropbox, I sideloaded. You can actually go to dropbox.com/Android and download it from there, which allows you to get into your Dropbox. As you can see, it's quite clean. And then the other option, which I don't have on my favorites, is that Spotify, which I highly recommend and use often, can be viewed on the Kindle Fire. It looks nice and clean. It doesn't look like a mobile app. The only weird glitchiness that I saw is that if I play something, it doesn't allow you to pause. That is not the case with the native app on your phone and on your desktop, but with the Kindle Fire, you can go to your playlist, you can shuffle, you can do everything that you normally can do. You just can't pause the song, so you have to actually sign out. I'm sure that's something that Spotify will fix, but like I mentioned, it is not currently an app that is in the Amazon App Store. I sideloaded this. In fact, you can do that by going to m4mobile.spotify.com, and you can actually bring your Spotify app onto the Kindle Fire, but with that small caveat that you can't pause the music until Spotify fixes that, because it's not technically a supported app in the Amazon App Store. So as you can see from the demonstration, it's actually a really handy device for an entry-level tablet. If you don't have a tablet, if you wanted to upgrade from your previous Kindle, you really can't beat it for $200. As I mentioned in the beginning of the review, I was going to try not to compare it too much to the iPad, and the reason for that, again, is that they're entirely different devices. I think that they appeal to different audiences. All things being equal, if money's not a concern and it's between the iPad or the Amazon Kindle, I think a lot of people will probably get the iPad simply because you're getting more features. You're getting a camera, you're getting a mic, you're getting GPS, Bluetooth, etc. But a lot of people don't want to spend $500 plus for a tablet. So this is a great entry device into the tablet market. As you can see from all the functions, just about anything that you'd want to do as it relates to consumption, you're able to do on the device. If you want to surf the web, check Facebook, play Angry Birds, watch some movies, read some books and magazines, you're able to do that. I think it's a purely consumption device. If you want productivity, then the iPad is probably the way to go. But overall, I would give it a rating of about a B+. I actually upgraded that rating to a B+ after the firmware update because there were some performance enhancements, and bugs that were fixed and worked out that actually improved the device slightly in terms of just the interface being a lot snappier and so forth. So I would give it a B+. There's going to be firmware updates that are going to come out. They're going to fix a lot of other bugs that some people have complained about. For me, there really aren't that many at all, and I think it's a fantastic device. I think actually for $200, it's absolutely brilliant. As a matter of fact, I actually use this a lot more in the house than I use my iPad because it's a lot easier for me to just simply hold in one hand, read books in bed, or just simply get caught up on a TV show if my girlfriend's watching a movie or one of her Vampire Diaries or something like that. So I highly recommend it. Whether it's a gift for somebody, if it's a gift for yourself. I actually pre-ordered it within an hour of the announcement. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the review, there are a couple of cons if you're going to go and weigh pros and cons. Those cons, of course, being that there are no camera, there is no microphone, there is no GPS, there is no Bluetooth. Amazon intended for you to stay within their digital ecosystem. Now, a lot of people had talked about the tablet coming out, whether or not it was an iPad killer. It's not an iPad killer because it's an entirely different device. As I mentioned in a review that I had done on stimulatedboredom.com, that it appeals to an entirely different audience altogether. Amazon easily has the digital content and library that can rival, if not, exceed Apple's library, which is why a lot of people assume that they would be a big contender for being an iPad killer. But overall, it appeals to a crowd where it opens up an entire demographic of millions of people that would like to get a tablet, but just were never going to spend the money to buy an iPad. And so therefore, Amazon just became your new best friend by coming out with the Kindle Fire. Beyond that, the pros, I think that it's a snappy interface, being able to obviously stream videos. The Prime membership, I think, is a huge and integral part of the Fire success. But again, Amazon wants you to buy books from them. They want you to get apps from them. They want you to rent movies from them. And I think a lot of people are perfectly willing to do that. As a matter of fact, hell, Amazon's gotten a bunch of my money since I got the Fire because they made the shopping experience through the Amazon app that's integrated into it, which I neglected to show you guys. But you get the point that it's very easy to shop and find new content that you want to purchase, or just simply buying things from Amazon, whether it's something entirely unrelated to the Kindle Fire. So anyway, that being said, for the Stimulated Boredom listeners, I highly recommend it. I give it a B+. It has a few limitations, but for a version 1.0, so to speak, with it coming out of the box and already getting a firmware update, it's just simply going to get better and better. Also, with that being said, I want to go ahead and apologize to my editor, Jimmy, because I tend to talk a lot. Anybody who listens to Stimulated Boredom is... Keep it moving. It's very... Hey, Jimmy, say hi to the people. So he's probably going to have to put some creative edits into this video because I'm pretty sure I just kept talking like I'm doing right now. And he'll have to find ways to make everything make sense. So in advance, if you want to thank Jimmy, obviously email me at dana@stimulatedboredom.com. But if you have any additional questions, I know there's going to be folks who want to know specifics relating to side-loading apps and movies. As I mentioned in the beginning of the review, that I'm going to do some tutorials that'll actually, 30 seconds, a minute a piece, and showing people how to do that. I kind of dipped into that a little bit during this review. And that's where Jimmy's creative genius comes in editing it so it all makes sense. So you might see some creative cuts. But anyway, for more information, you can go to stimulatedboredom.com. Again, if you have any comments, questions, I'll be sure to maybe address them in a Q&A session relating to the Kindle Fire in a future video that we'll shoot. And if you want to do that, again, it's Dana at stimulatedboredom.com. So I hope you enjoyed this review of the Kindle Fire. As I said, it's a great device, great entry level into the tablet market. And if you're looking for an upgrade to your previous Kindle, it is a huge improvement, and I am quite fond of it. As I mentioned, I've been using it more than I've been using my iPad. So again, hope you enjoyed the video, and hopefully you'll tune in for the tutorial videos that will follow.